Welcome back to Hear God Speak. I'm so excited to be here with you again. My name is Sydney Freiberg, and this is my mom, Barb Rice. And we are so happy that you have come back to spend some more time with us. So another hot topic, parenting question.
Okay.
This one's spicy because I'm like, okay, let's get to it. What if we're not at home? How do we discipline? Like if we're vacationing or if we're out in a restaurant or like, because I mean, we don't want to just be at home all day.
Right.
You know, we
It's
want to live, laugh, love.
That's right.
How do we do that?
You got to get out.
All right.
Right. So probably the most, I guess, the most significant place that you're going to go on a regular basis is going to be the grocery store.
Right.
So
that's a vulnerable place for a mother.
That's a vulnerable place for us girls.
I know.
With these kids. Okay, so I remember when you were probably 2.
Oh boy.
And she had lots of words. Like she was, and if you have a girl, you know. I mean, maybe some of your boys do this. None of my boys did. My boys literally did not speak till they were 2. They had like 6 words when they were 2. You, however, Sydney at 16 months had like 250 words. I mean, you could do all the animal sounds. You were formulating sentences. I mean, she was like gearing up for a debate. So, so when I was in the grocery store and I had just had Isaac, so I'm like postpartum.
Oh gosh.
You're 2. You had just turned 2. He's
2-year-olds
literally
have
an
no mercy.
infant.
There's no mercy for the
no
broken.
No mercy, no filter. Nothing, and you were acting a fool in the grocery store. And you were in the cart, and you said something about somebody being fat. I know! I was absolutely horrified. And I looked at you and I was like, Sydney, I was like, we do not say that. And I did one of those grit your teeth, shiny.
Yeah.
And you're like, don't spank me! I was like, I don't know, it was worse, like in that moment.
Oh my
like
gosh.
You, like, being critical of somebody's makeup or you screaming, don't spank me.
Oh
echoing
gosh.
through the whole grocery store. And I just remember thinking, it's time to go. We need to leave
right
immediately.
Now.
I literally went to my car. I think I left my grocery cart like sitting right there. Just grabbed the baby.
Fight or flight, baby.
Grabbed you. And I left and I sat in my car and I cried. And I like called your dad and was like, you're gonna have to like do the grocery shopping this week. I don't think I can do it. Like I just drove home.
2-year-old induced trauma.
Yes, that was traumatic for me. But through the years, God has taught me how to handle those kind of situations. So that's a great question. You know, what if we're not at home? Because, you know, the scripture talks about that, about the importance of disciplining your kids. And we change the word spanking to discipline so that if anybody ever, and kids do, you know, because they're in the, you know, fortunately they use the tactics of it to manipulate in public sometimes too, to scare the parents.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, we need to change the word spank to something more socially acceptable. So we said discipline. So my kids would be like, don't discipline me. Like, you know, and that people didn't really know what that meant.
Right.
But you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the rod. And we're talking about the biblical way of discipline, not child abuse. Some of you were abused, like me, as a child, with a belt, in anger. Horrible, horrible. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what God says, under control, discipline to train and shepherd your children's heart. Okay?
And I'm a product of you practicing it in a relational way.
Yeah, it's just training your kids, like teaching them what God's saying and raising them in a manner that's going to be pleasing. So in Proverbs 23, 12 through 14, it says this. It says, apply your heart to instruction and your ear to words of knowledge. Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. I love that. Because some of my children, like, they acted like they were going to die. They did. A couple of them. Not all of them. Sometimes. About half of them acted like they were going to die even before the rod was administered. Okay? So I love that because it gave me courage to, like, even though they act like they're going to die, they're not going to die from this. They're fine. It says, if you strike him with the rod, you will save his soul from Sheol. You know, and you know Sheol means
hell. Yeah.
Like,
literally saving them.
Literally. Yeah. When they're young, by doing what God has said to do, you are literally rescuing. You are in a rescue mission. Yeah. To save your child from destroying themselves and from sending themselves to hell. Right. Like, it's that serious. Okay. So back to the question, though. Back to the original question of what do you do if you're in public? Okay. Yeah. So number one is, I would say that, you know, there is the difference. There is a little bit different training outside of the home than in the home. You know, and how do you understand the balance of that is, you know, training in public versus training at home. Right. And so most of the training is going to be done at home, so that when you go out in public, your kids know you're serious. Yeah. It's like, if it's no joke.
Because that's the test.
Yeah, that's the test. If, like, what you're doing at home. Yes. Because if they are willing, and they're going to test you to see if you're serious. Right. Like, if everything is, like, consistent out of the home and in the home. Okay. Yeah. So I would just say, you know, mean what you say and say what you mean. Totally. Okay. So, and then the other thing is the importance of consistency at home in training your kids. Yeah. You know, and shepherding their hearts. And then the third thing would be, you should be focusing on one or two things, like in your training with your kids when it comes to discipline. So the two big buckets that will literally always be the main buckets is disobedience and disrespect. So we're always correcting and redirecting on disobedience and disrespect. Yeah. And the expectations of first time obedience. So the first time all the way with a joyful spirit. So on the first time, not the fifth time, not the third time. Right. Not me counting to 10. No. Okay. On the first time. When I tell you to do something, you do it. Okay. And you do it all the way. And you do it with a joyful spirit. Yeah. Okay. And so that training takes place at home, so that when you're in public and you tell your child to do something and they don't do it and they look at you and they're like, yeah. And you're like, okay, you know what? You disobeyed me. Okay. And so when we get home, you're going to get 2 disciplines. Okay. Yeah. They know, you know, there's an understanding. Right. And then when you get home, in private, you would discipline them. Right. Okay. And you just start practicing that. Yeah. And when you're doing it, when you get home, even if you're tired. Yes, even if you're tired. Has to happen. Even if time has passed. Doesn't matter. As your kids get older, they'll remember. Oh, like, I remember you guys you'd be like, we'd come home and, like, they'd go to, like, the guest bedroom and they'd be sitting in there and they'd be like, Mother! Mama! I'm like, yes? What? Like, where are you? They're like, I'm in the guest bedroom. Are you going to discipline me? Literally, no joke. I would have forgotten. Yeah. I had forgotten. I'd be like, oh yeah.
But that's because you were consistent when we were toddlers. Yes. That we were already knew. Like, don't even try and get past her. She's gonna. Yes. So we. Because it was worse if you tried to get around it. Oh yeah. Just the conversation of like, if you just tried to be like, pretend like you didn't do anything. Yeah.
And again, and sometimes there are times where it's like, you know. I know why grocery stores have this, where the candy aisle, like right when you're going through the checkout, and it's like your kids are like trying to grab stuff. Right. And you're like, no, don't grab it. Like, here's the thing. Don't don't discipline them in public. It's never going to go well, like, in the fact of, like, smacking them or yelling at them or whatever. It's just, like, literally everyone around you is going to be like, child abuse. That mother is, like, abusive. So let me just give you, like, a private, I know this is a public podcast, but this is just a little private, like, tidbit.
No, I love it.
Instead of, like, doing any of this, like,
and they're screaming and you're like,
like if they're not going to listen to you, especially when they're little. I mean, and even, my kids, I didn't have to do this when they were older because by the grace of God, we had a level of consistency. But when you guys were little, sometimes I need you to lean forward because I'm going to have to demonstrate this.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it to you because
love it.
I won't hurt you.
Okay.
But, like, if you take your fingers like this, and that little pinch, and all I would do is if they were literally, like, grabbing stuff, the candy, and I said, or trying to throw it in there without asking, or just being disobedient or crazy or whatever, I'd be like, you need to stop that right now. Okay? You're going to get 2 disciplines when we get home. And if they kept going,
like grabbing stuff.
Yes, I would literally just come around privately, just take this little pincher, and I would just pinch them in the back of the head.
I don't even remember that.
I know, because I didn't have to do it very often. I didn't
have
to do it very often.
But
I'm telling you, you can just have your spouse do it to you, and like
you can feel it. Yeah.
Oh man, that hurts like the dickens. Let me tell you,
it's like
that's a quick turnaround. Like I am not kidding.
Right.
Like this needs to be. Yeah, we need to adjust this right now. That's probably the only discipline I did in public. I would never.
And it's not even like it's more of a we need to.
It's more of a rebuke. Like, and especially for the boys, I had to do stuff like that with them because of their just high level of energy. And I love that. I love that they have a high level of energy. But there are times I needed them to be self-controlled, and they were not listening. Mm-hmm. They were not obeying. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there was a level of disrespect. Mm-hmm. So, just a quick turnaround like that is probably the only thing I would do. Mm-hmm. So, and then the other thing is just disciplining, always disciplining in private because, we're not trying to humiliate them.
No.
Okay.
And manipulation.
No, you're not. You don't want to manipulate. No. And the other thing is too is sometimes there's the pressure of people watching, or the pressure of opinions of other people.
It's the fear.
Like the fear of man creeping in. And listen, some of you may think that you don't have it, but we all do. For some reason, for certain people, it's terrible. And so just know that we all have that, and that there is a way to address that in and of ourselves, and one of them is to discipline in private.
Yes.
Because then you don't have all the other voices around you.
It don't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, and you don't need their triggers to feed into anger or embarrassment.
Totally.
Okay. I'll tell you this one story. When I was pregnant with Sophia.
Oh gosh, so you had 4.
I had 4. 8 and under.
8 and under, yeah.
Yeah, so I first 4.5 years, and then I had a miscarriage, and then I had Sophia. So Quincy and Sophia are about 2.5 years apart. So, but I just had you girls with me in Trader Joe's one time, and I was big pregnant, like 8 months pregnant with Sophia. And we're just walking around, and it was, she's a January 1st baby. So, no, maybe I was like 10. I mean, no, I'm only pregnant for 9 months.
I was like, wow. That's awful.
Wow, I know, yeah. Well, 9. Okay. So, I was big, but it was during the holidays, and there was a lot of people in Trader Joe's.
So December.
So, probably
Christmas
December.
Time.
Yeah, after Thanksgiving, Christmas time around there. But I was way pregnant.
Yeah.
It was after church one day, and we were tooling around in Trader Joe's real quick, and they had these flowers, these Gerber daisies.
I remember this.
Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
So, the Gerber daisies, and I did not realize that Selah, she would have been, how old would she have been? She would have been probably like 6.
Yeah.
5 or 6.
She's little.
Yeah, she was little. She just snapped off the not the total top, but the close to the top.
A little flower.
Yeah, she's picked it.
Yeah.
She's picked the flower. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're in an aisle, and there's lots of people, and there is an old grumpy man in there.
Mm.
And do you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was close to us, and she came up to me very innocently and is like, Mommy, I picked a flower for you, and like hands me this flower.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, honey, we're not supposed to pick those. And this grumpy old man comes up, like, as he's driving by and is like, that is terrible parenting. You know, that's the reason why these flowers get destroyed, is because of children like yours.
Wow.
I literally...
Talk about pregnancy hormones on top of
blood,
that.
The blood pressure
is
my like literally right here.
I
the
can't.
Volcano
Oh, yeah.
inside of me, and the mama bear inside of me
Yeah.
was like, how dare you?
Right.
And I just looked at him, and in my, self-justification, wanted to say, listen, I train my kids. I discipline my kids. How dare you say that to my sweet daughter?
Right.
Like, I literally just looked at him, and I turned away, and I grabbed you girls, and we went to the checkout aisle. And as God would have it, a friend of mine from church rolls up behind me and was like, hi, how are you? Oh my gosh, your girls are so cute. And I was just like, this guy said this to me. And then, like, all these people are in the checkout aisles, and I am, like, looking around, like, scanning, trying to see if I can find him so I can give him a piece of my mind.
Right.
And I'm like, the Lord's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm just like,
I'm trying to justify myself.
Yes.
Yes.
And so it was just kind of like, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't answer a fool for their folly.
Yeah.
And you know what? My daughter didn't need to be disciplined for picking a flower.
Right. It was a teaching moment.
It
wasn't a disciplined disobedience.
That's right. It wasn't a sin. She
No.
wasn't like being malicious or evil or anything like that. It was like, no, you know what? We don't do that. That was enough.
Yeah.
For her. But thank you. That was very
Yeah.
sweet of you to think of me for the flower.
Yeah.
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 So that's, I guess.
What I love, she has a great saying, and this is kind of a little, we do this in our house of like, you know what, they probably didn't have their quiet time today.
Yeah.
And I did, thank God.
Yes.
So we're just going to cover that in the blood of Jesus.
That's right.
We're going to move on.
That's right.
But it helps because he probably didn't, and he probably had other things happening.
Right.
And out of the
We didn't
overflow
know
of the
him.
heart, the mouth
Exactly.
speaks.
Yep.
And it was just...
Yep, and it was targeted towards us,
Mhm.
and
it probably wasn't even that. It's just the overflow. It's just like when you bump into people, whatever's in there is coming out.
That's right. Yep. It's just gonna overflow onto you, whatever that toxicity is.
But when you're pregnant and you have
man,
children,
that was a rough one.
everything is like
it just feels magnified.
Everything feels personal, but even still, it's your parenting. You're like, no, I am doing this right. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But isn't that interesting? Like you're like, hey, you know what? I work really hard on this.
Right.
For you to make a critical comment like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the bottom line is that's why we seek first His kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Because I need to have God's opinion of what I'm doing more important than some random voice.
Totally.
Telling me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's not the measure.
That only sees a little picture.
Right.
Right.
That only sees that one little snippet of my life.
Right.
So.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, that was the wonderful answer of what do we do if we're not at home? All of this wisdom, I hope that you guys were able to find something that now you can apply. I know I do, and I will definitely be re-listening to these over the years, especially as Kingston gets older and Lord willing, we have more kids and I need more help because we're going to be crazy too. But all of that to say, thank you for joining us again here at Hear God Speak. We hope to see you next time.